Hello, hello, everybody. It is so good to see all of you here. I'm looking and scanning and seeing faces from so many parts of my life. And I just want to thank you for taking out the time to be here. As you know, this journey began in, I guess it actually began in 2019. And it has culminated in this documentary that came out today. So you're gonna see episode 1, which is Stress Proof. There's 6 other episodes. And afterwards, we'll have a Q&A with my dear friend, collaborator, just sister, Professor Dolly Chook from NYU Stern. And that's the plan for the evening. But I have to just, before this all begins, thank my incredible Bernstein Center team. The popcorn, the candy, all of that. Olivia, Shirley, Tracy, wave your hands and just, yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we're gonna start with a video from someone who couldn't be here today but wanted to. And the reason he's not here is that he's actually at the 92nd Street Y doing another screening, back to back to back screenings yesterday, today, all that. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, sorry I couldn't be there with you in person. I'm thrilled for you to attend this special screening of Limitless and see what it really takes to push the human body to its limits. This incredible series explores the cutting edge of scientific research into facets of longevity, and I was honored to be a part of it. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, your star, Professor Modupe Akinola!
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Wow, wow, wow. I think I speak for everybody. Wow. Oh, I'm stressed. Was that what was supposed to happen? All right, let's get into this. How did this amazing opportunity come your way? How did they find you and create this opportunity for you to offer your expertise?
It should be on,
yeah.
Yes. So the funny thing is, I got an email from Utopia, which is the production company, and just saying they wanted to talk to me about tools to manage stress. And I immediately forwarded that email to Dolly and my other collaborator, Katie, because they're part of my No Club. And I was like, should I even respond to this? Utopia, I've never heard of them. Like, what is this about? And Dolly did some research as the amazing friend and collaborator she is. And she was like, they do National Geographic documentaries. And I was like, oh, really? So let me respond. So I responded, and they just asked me questions like, you know, what would you do to stress somebody out? What are some physiological responses to stress? What would you measure? And I answered questions and all that. And then little did I know that was kind of my interview process in some ways. And eventually, in May of 2021, they were like, hey, can you come out to Australia, quarantine for 14 days, and then we'll make all this happen? And I was like, yes, I can.
Oh, my goodness.
That's it.
Wow. And so when you said, when they said, what would you do to stress people out? Did you say I would make them walk across a crane 900 feet in the air and drown? And was that your idea?
So there were a couple things we wanted to do. We wanted to do some physical stressors. And, you know, I said, make someone feel like something's dangerous or there's uncertainty. And walking across a crane is one of those things that is dangerous and there's uncertainty. Also, you want to do something like the firefighting where you just have to breathe. You can't think. So something where you want to do well, that's goal-oriented, And he's the type of person that really wants to do well. So these were the different factors that I said let people be stressed.
Okay.
And then that's how we kind of created these 3 experiences for him.
And then you gave him a heads up, right? Or
no.
Tell us.
No, he did not know the details of anything.
Oh my God.
The key was for this to be a real experience for him. So no, he did not know.
And so what we saw on film was someone who seemed pretty game to try. Is that how it really went down?
He agreed to be a part of this because he really wanted to address the question of how do I live better longer? Knowing that his schedule is nuts. He wants to be with his family. He's experienced a couple of injuries in training for the Thor movie and all that. And so for him, longevity really mattered. And so much so that before we knew it, he was really, really getting involved in every episode. Sometimes you can get a star who's kind of like, okay, just tell me and I'll do it. No, he was like, no, I'd rather do it this way. What if we think of this? And so he's truly a producer in the whole process.
Wow. Now, I have to ask, what was your stress level? I was kind of wishing they had put the same little devices on you so we could watch your heart rate throughout all these challenges.
I was stressed too, especially the drown proofing piece.
Oh.
I mean, it makes it look like I'm smiling like, no, but I was kind of like, is he okay? Is my baby okay? Yeah, my baby Chris Hemsworth. Like, is he okay? Is he going to do it? Is he going to be
We heard
fine?
you tell him to take his shirt off, by the way.
Now,
everybody heard it.
So the funny thing is the day before I was there and we were making sure everything was fine. And I was like, do you have an ambulance just in case I pass out when he takes off his shirt? They were like, you'll be okay. You'll be okay, Modupe. And I was okay.
Okay, so your level of stress, like what were you stressed about? Was it, was there a chance he could get hurt, or were you stressed about like his adoption of the techniques you had been teaching him?
I just wanted him to feel empowered to rise to the occasion.
Okay.
So I was stressed that would he really feel like he could do it? Does he really feel like he has the tools? And is this going to work?
Yeah.
Is this going to work?
Right.
And is he going to do it? And he was always, he's a competitive guy who was up for the challenge.
Right.
So after the drown proofing and, talking to him for a bit, and he was kind of like, I was a little disappointed in myself. I was like, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine with all this because he wants to do well at these types of things. He wants to really adopt the skills.
And the rapport, I mean, it looked up there like you two were buds. And where did that rapport come from? Like when you drown somebody, I guess you bond a little.
I feel like I went into it like this is a regular person who wants to live longer. And so I try to approach things really seeing the heart in people. I mean, many of you are my students or friends or people I've worked with, and I hope that one of the things you see in our experiences together is that I really care about you as a person. And I, give my all to that. And so I wanted to do the same for him. And so for me, it was like, well, what can I do? How can I give more? And it just led to a natural rapport. And I have to say, a lot of the crew and the producers and everything, they were really happy with how that went. And Stress Proof wasn't going to be the first episode. And they were kind of like, because of your rapport and because of the topic, one that everyone wants to learn more about, they made it the first. So I was really touched about that.
Phenomenal. One of my favorite things about the episode, as someone who does know you well, is how authentic you seemed. And I really felt like I could see your heart, what you just described, how you care in the depth with which you care. I could see your soul, like that sort of like space to breathe and experience and be present. I could see that. And then, of course, I could see your brilliant mind, your intellect at work, bringing decades of research that you've done on stress. Can you tell us where this interest in studying stress comes from for you?
Well, I have the pleasure right now of having my beautiful family in the audience. Stand up, family, stand up, stand up, stand up. So
Can we ask your parents in particular to wave?
Hands, parents, raise your hands.
The mom and dad right there.
My parents, my sisters, my brothers-in-law, my nieces and nephew, and you know, I come from a family of immigrants. My parents immigrated in the late 60s to the US, and as an immigrant, you bring stress. It's stressful. Starting anew in a different country, it's stressful being away from your family. And so I feel like I watched some of their stress, and I know I carried some of it. I got some of it too, and I really wanted to be able to work on being able to deal with that stress in a way that was helpful, not harmful. And so when I started grad school, I had the pleasure of a faculty member who studied stress and studied the physiology of stress. Her name is Wendy Barry Mendez, and so she taught me everything I know. And the cool thing about it is we also wanted to understand the stress of cross-race relationships and all of the types of stressful situations you can experience in a work and other environments. And so that's really what got me into this. They often say, or my colleagues and I often say, research is me search. So I study stress because I wanted to understand how to change my responses to stress.
It's incredibly moving to hear the journey and sort of what a personal place it comes from. But now you're bringing the tools of science to bear upon your personal experience and experience that so many of us can relate to in thinking about stress. Can you tell us a little bit about, at this stage in your life, what is most stressful for you, and how, and more importantly, like, what tools do you use yourself? Like, we heard what tools you offered Chris, but I assume each individual kind of gravitates towards different things.
What's stressful right now is that I have 700 emails that I have not yet responded to.
She'll get back to you.
Yes. And some
Give
of
her a
those
minute.
include people who have watched the episode and are like, hey, can you give me advice on blah, 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 blah. And so it's just going to keep growing. So the idea that, you know, as I said earlier, I care about connecting with people, and the fact that I can't do that and I don't have that capacity right now is very stressful for me. Today I had a luncheon and I had to say some words and whatever. Yes, I teach and I speak all the time, but my heart rate still increases before that, so I have to learn to breathe and pause and know that I know the topic better than anyone else that's there in the moment. Yeah, I just feel like the stress of being present for those I love and trying to be my best self in that stress is what matters most to me. And so I meditate. I am a big, in 2018, I realized how I really just needed to slow things down and still the mind. So I started meditating. Most of you who know me well know that I do 10-day silent meditation retreats every single December. And that really just gets me in a place where I'm able to focus. Right before this is stressful. I don't really like being in the spotlight like this. And last night was the premiere, and it was this is a lot for me. So I was in my office, the lights were off. I put up my diffuser with some peppermint in it and just sat there and just closed my eyes. So really for me, it's about being still, and that helps.
Yeah, and I want to, one thing that, so I've seen this now 3 times. You gave me the opportunity in order to prepare for today, and I have to say, like, I've heard from, we've all heard about the importance of breathing, but there was something about seeing it, like the sort of stakes here, that made me actually like try the square breathing technique that I've heard you talk about many other times, and that was this weekend is when I first saw this episode, and today's Wednesday-ish or Thursday, Wednesday. And I have to say, I've probably a dozen times like felt stressed and tried what you coached us through there that you're describing you use yourself, and it worked. It worked.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
You have to try it. And it might not work for everybody, box breathing in particular, but some way of breathing. Sometimes it's just inhaling and just holding it. Or sometimes they say 7 seconds of whatever. But I just really encourage people to just try something. Try and see what fits. We need to try things on for size. We're all different. And so if we don't attempt to figure out what could work for us, then we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to make great progress.
Yeah. You've got a lot of fans in the room and got a lot of fans who couldn't be in the room today. How do we support this project? How do we support you? Like, what is most useful to you? You've been doing a lot of media, a lot of publicity. I know that that's part of you don't get to just be a scientist. You also have to sell the project. But what can we do so you can do less?
Spread the word.
Okay.
It dropped today, streaming Disney Plus. And I mean, I say spread the word because I really also want you to watch all of the episodes because you will learn so much. The people who have seen this many have said, like, I've been applying this. And when I think about why I wanted to be involved in this, why Chris wanted to be involved in this, why all of the other experts wanted to be involved, is that we know that it'll be a vehicle to touch people globally, to really focus on their health and living better. We're losing people too soon. It's not right. And we have to do something about it. So, use your social media channels, all that fancy stuff, whatever, and spread the word about this, because I think it's important for all of us long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And I having seen a couple of the episodes, the storytelling. I mean, to be honest, when you said you were doing a National Geographic documentary, I was happy for you, but I was like, all right, that's not going to be like edge of your seat kind of stuff. But this was edge of your seat storytelling, and that's what I saw in other episodes too. Though maybe you should give them a little trigger warning about episode 6.
The last episode is pretty intense. The premise is, yes, each of the 5 episodes are about what can I do to live longer, but the last episode is I need to accept that I'm going to die. And so they kind of walk through that process, and it is super powerful. One thing I can say about the experience that was such a learning experience for me was the expertise of every single one of the people creating this. Whether it was the guy and his strong arm who held up the boom microphone, just so many people who love what they do. And as a person who teaches about, well, how can you all find the careers that you're excited about? The one thing I realized was just be passionate about what you do and care deeply about each little element. And that passion will lead to so many great things.
Love that. I love that. A round of applause for Professor Modupe Akinola. We've got some mics going around. We'd love to hear your questions, like what was Thor really like? That kind of thing is welcome. We've got one hand here.
Hi, Modupe. This was spectacular. Congratulations. I have a million questions, so I'll try to keep this brief. I think one of the big things that I took away from it is that these situations that you've talked about and you've touched on through touch points along the way in the series was these situations are extreme. Even the situation of how we look at somebody who's high profile, like Chris Hemsworth, who's got hundreds of $1 million of movies riding on his shoulders. Like that kind of everyday stress is not something that I necessarily live in my lane, even if I want to pretend to. Like, how do you find, is there anything that you find that has, I guess I should say, when did you find in your experience with mindful meditation or box breathing or whatever it is that you've used in the tools in your everyday life of how to like negotiate those triggers when they're not extreme, when it's not a fire, when it's not walking across a beam, when it's, it takes me 90 minutes to get from 53rd and Lex to here.
Relatable.
Like where you go, okay, here are these triggers. How do I negotiate
Perfect.
that?
One of the things I said to him in the episode that everyone keeps on asking me is, what does it mean to date your stress? So how do you figure it out? Well, you notice. The first step is acknowledging and noticing. And I tell people, ask yourself, okay, when I am stressed, what am I doing? How am I behaving towards myself, towards others? What is my mind telling me? And then what is my body saying? And if you understand what those signals and cues are, then you have started to date your stress. Funny enough, I don't know if Peter's here, but I have a good friend, Peter, my little brother, and there he is. And we were driving, I was picking something up, and he was like, sis, you have a little bit of road rage. I was like, no, I don't. I'm not stressed right now. And I'm like, you're right. Oh my gosh, when I'm in the car and it's in New York, what? So I've had to say to myself, stop. The moment I'm like, he didn't signal before he went. Breathe, breathe, pause. And even just the fact that it was Peter who helped me see that, we need to recruit those around us to really help us in calling us out when we need to be called out, but also in giving us sometimes the help that we need when we're feeling stress.
We have time for a few more questions. We'll get through as many as we can. We've got a mic here. Oh, and some up there. So we'll go with quick questions so we can get as many in as possible.
So this is quick. You just said that sometimes we need to help others. So just what would be the best way for a person who sees someone who's in a stressful situation and who's at a peak level of stress? What would be the best way for us to help others?
To ask them, what do you need right now? What do you need? Because when someone's so stressed, they don't even realize, they haven't even asked themselves that question. And I have found when I'm asked that question or when I ask somebody else, it's very clear. You know, I don't know if Donna's here, but yes, she is, in her sparkles. I see you, Donna, in your rainbow sparkles. You know, there was one day where she was super stressed, and I said, what do you need? And she said, I just need you to someone to come with me to this meeting that I'm having. And I was like, I'm there. What time? Let's make it happen. And that was transformational for her. And same thing happens for me. And so that is the biggest gift we can give our friends. What do you need?
Wonderful. We've got a question all the way up there.
Yes, thank you. It's interesting how technology also helps us to calm our mind, right? And even like Apple Watch, there is like a breathing exercise, right, that reminds you to be present and meditate. And one thing is to manage it, but is there a way to sort of repurpose that energy towards something accelerating or much better than just calming it down and being in the present moment?
So it's interesting because to me, being in the present moment doesn't mean reducing it. It just means acknowledging that it's there, and then you can channel it to use it to your advantage. So for instance, in there, he was like, you know, oh, I can just, or I don't know, at one point, it was something like, okay, I can channel this and say, this is excitement. Wow, my heart is beating really hard right now. I'm excited. I'm amped for this. That doesn't mean I should be fearful or nervous or this is a bad thing. And there's been research that shows that when you remind yourself that, oh gosh, situations like this, my heart will race and that's okay. And that when your heart is racing, that can lead to you rising to the occasion. We need to tell ourselves that instead of, oh my gosh, this is a signal that something bad is gonna happen. So a piece of that is some of that positive self-talk too.
We have time for one more question. Okay, the mic's up there. Thank you. Go for it.
First of all, Cluster C is here, and we want to say we love Professor Modupe.
Woo! There she is.
So, question that I have is, in terms of things you've taught us in LEAD, the LEAD class, and you know how we can manage stress, what are some of the elements that you infused into what you taught Chris Hemsworth?
Look at you trying to integrate what you learned in class here, you know.
Extra credit.
Yes. Well, one thing that we talk about in LEAD is being an exemplar of desired behavior, that an inspiring leader is an exemplar. And one way to be an exemplar is to know your stress and understand that it can be contagious and to figure out what you need to not pass it on to others. So that's one thing. We talk about being visionary. I think being visionary about what it is that helps you to be at your best and always pushing for that is really important. And we also talk about being a mentor and guiding others. And so one of the hopes for me in this is that that I can model what it is that I want others to do, and that in seeing that influences them in a positive way. So those are some of the ways. And then today, someone shared a phrase with me, the expert in the last episode, and she said, guzzle the nectar of life.
Ooh, was that?
Oof. And the reason that resonated is that I feel like there's so many, for my students and others, there are so many opportunities in this life There's so much nectar that we're so, just blocked by because of our stress or whatever. And can we learn to guzzle it, sip it slowly, whatever it is, and see it and take advantage of it, because there's so much beauty out there that we're missing.
Okay. We're going to guzzle the nectar of life. Bring it on.
Cool. Last question. So it was cool to see Chris use these psychological tools to kind of work with the swimming and the beam, but it didn't necessarily work for him in the fire. So I guess my question is, like, what did you say to Chris, or what should we say to ourselves when it doesn't work that first time? We're still in that kind of panic state.
You need to try different things. So you need to expose yourself to experiences where you can try different things. You mentioned using different apps, using whatever it is, because if you try something, you will stumble upon something that will work. In LEAD, we talk about IDEO, fail sooner so you can succeed more often. Similar tool for this. Try things, they don't work, try new things and see what happens.
You have taught us so much today. You have taught us what it means to feel gratitude. You've expressed so much today to the amazing Bernstein team, the tech team, everyone who's brought this event. So we thank you for teaching us and modeling for us gratitude. You've taught us to confront stress head on, not to worry about reducing it, but to think about how to notice it, how to acknowledge it, and that if we do so, we all have the ability to control it in healthier ways, less dysfunctional relationships with our stress. And you've taught us that training our mind is not just important in terms of how we feel in this moment, but it can help us lead a longer, healthier life. We thank you. One step, one moment, one breath. Professor Modupe Akinola, everybody.
And I also, thank you. Oh, wow. Thank you. I have to say that I am who I am, and this experience is what it is because of every single person in this room. When I say from different walks of my life, whether it's my Brearley crew, my college crew, my family, my CBS crew, my business school crew, my church crew, I could go on and on and on, my academic siblings who have come from everywhere. Thank you, and I just am grateful. Thank you.